a lot of the music and the song choices were not very corporate-y.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's a very delicate way to put
yeah.
that. Not very corporate.
Oh, and let's not forget the mirrors over the beds that I had to sell as a selfie mirror.
Unhospitality, the #1 podcast in the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Unhospitality with Dee Torrealba. Dee, you've been our friend for 11, maybe 12 years now. We've seen a
little more.
Maybe even more. Yeah, I don't know. I guess we're aging ourselves, but time flies when we're having fun, Dee. So yeah. Dee, tell me who you are. You obviously are an industry vet, hospitality vet. I appreciate you taking the time with us here. Tell me a little bit more about who Dee Torrealba is.
Well, first and foremost, congratulations, my friend. I'm proud of you and excited to be part of this new venture that you've, taken on. It's something that we were just talking about how much we love podcasts. So I'm super excited to see this new chapter and be part of it. So thank you for the invite. And I don't think we really have a lot of podcasts in the industry, right?
We don't. Not enough.
Not
so
enough.
there are a few out there that are really good, and I want to be reaching out to you soon to see if we can collab. But yeah, I think there's a void to be filled here, which I'm going to try and do. So thanks for joining me in the effort, and thanks for your kind words. I'm really happy to be here with you.
I appreciate that. So then I will go ahead and introduce myself.
Yeah.
So I'm Dee Torrealba, and I've been in the industry as a hotelier for about I'm going to age myself as well. Yeah, half of my life already. So definitely we'll say 20 years. Is that even okay? I totally just aged myself.
That's it. We just did the math on here. You're 40 plus. I love it.
Right.
You don't look a day
And
over 20,
so
so don't
thank
worry about it.
you.
Yeah.
And I started my career in New Orleans. So I was a girl out of high school. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I had a friend trick me, and Carolina, you're still out there. You owe me a lot.
I'm a counseling.
Trauma, right? Yeah. She got me into the industry. She said, hey, I know you don't know what you want to do, but I think you'd be great. And I started my career at the Sheraton New Orleans in operations. Starwood alumni, yes.
You and me both. Yeah.
And that's where we met, actually, at a kickoff.
It absolutely was. It was in Boston. Yeah, it was a snowy kickoff in like February of what, 2011, maybe?
I think. And I don't know if you recall, but we danced the night away, and we split the stage at one point because we were dancing.
Wait, we were on stage?
Like all of us. We were like having so much fun, and we literally ended up like cracking the stage open. They were like, wait. And so they had to close it up again.
It sounds like a scene out of like It's a Wonderful Life where the dance floor opens up in the middle of the dancing. Do you ever see that movie?
Someone just mentioned that it was their favorite Christmas movie.
You can add me to that list. It's my favorite Christmas. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. If you need like a good dose of like beautiful humanity and the lessons that what a man or a woman in any case could the impact they can make in life, required watching. So put it on your list.
I want to watch Christmas Vacation and Home Alone and Elf.
Which is they all have their place. Don't take anything away from them. They're great movies too. But It's a Wonderful Life. You got to put it on your movie list for sure.
This month, I promise you.
Anyway, there's a scene in there where they're splitting the dance floor and they fall into a pool and whatever. But that was maybe we were like steps away from falling into a pool.
But we had such a great time. We had a band perform. I mean,
those kickoffs were legendary. That was all about business and kind of gathering the teams for the year ahead and getting our sales.
It was really beautiful.
To us. They were beautiful.
It was great.
Tell me more, because I actually love those kickoffs, and I want to know what your thoughts are. Because maybe I was just drinking the Kool-Aid too much. I don't think I was. To me, they were like really impactful. It
was legit.
Tell me more.
I think for a lot of you watching that are Starwood alumni, I know there's still groups out there on Facebook. Hi,
everyone, we love you.
Yeah, no, I think we all definitely hold a very special place in our hearts for Starwood.
1000%.
We all connect in that way. It brings us together. I started my career with Sheridan, and by the end of it, I was like, I don't want to belong anymore. I want to go to like Westin or W. Which then years later brought me to work with the St. Regis brand.
Amazing.
So I definitely have a few that have checked off my bucket list, that are no longer part of Starwood, but still to me, they were on my radar as I started my career with Starwood and in the
Starwood no
industry.
longer is not part of Starwood, so for that
Exactly.
matter, yeah,
So,
yep.
but going back then, I always had a list, and now in the future, I'm happy to say that I was able to check a few of them off of my bucket list. Going back to the kickoffs, I think that for me, I was in operations and I was a convention service manager at the time. So it was actually a little bit, of an honor to be there because I was like, well, I'm not in sales, I'm not revenue, but we were part of, a very important piece of the puzzle, right? We all play a huge role in bringing what we bring to life at the end of the day. And to be able to participate and see revenue, sales, convention services, I don't know who else was part of that. Who else?
Yeah, catering.
Catering. My best friend, the person who became my best friend, shout out to Sam, who has now made it to be a director. She's part of the guidance team for her company. And I'm just so proud to see so many friends that back then, we were just starting in our careers. And she won, I'll never forget, she won Catering Manager of the Year. And we have a picture of each other on stage after, she got her award.
I said, what did you win that year? But no, you
No, I was
jumped
just
on the stage after you were
no,
supporting.
it was, like, after, everyone got off stage, and I
Yeah.
went up and took a picture. I was like, "Hey, let's take a picture," and that person became my best friend, which we'll talk about a lot of our friendships and family that we've, selected along the way, which is the beautiful part of hospitality.
So you are. I'll just touch on a little bit about what I love about the kickoffs too. Obviously, sales driven. We're talking about what we can do to better our brands. There's, Starwood did an amazing job, I would say, too, of differentiating their brand. So there was yeah, innovative, but also what's different? Why is a Westin different than a Sheraton? Why is a Sheraton different than a W? Why is a W different than a St. Regis, right? And we got a lot of education as to how to speak about our brands at that. But to me, the meat and potatoes of those sales kickoffs were the heartfelt leadership and the stories they would tell from stage that literally made you want to run through a wall. The way that they talked about moving business, it was not about look, it comes down to numbers. This is why we're here. This is what the industry is all about. But beyond the numbers, it was about making those real, honest to God connections with your clients in moving business in a way that was full of care. I sound so utopian and so kind of almost like Pollyanna about this, but there was such a beautiful culture. And this is now the second podcast in a week that I've been talking about the Star Wars culture because it's something that I think once you've experienced it, it becomes ingrained in you for your life.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that. I think it was a very special chapter in most of our lives that were part of that company. And, even today, you can go to IMEX and they have a get together for the Starwood alumni
No
group.
doubt.
And everyone still reminisces on the beautiful, memories that we've had together and how we grew within the company. I know I saw myself growing with it until, it came uh, to the point that it did. But until then, it was a lot of fun, and those kickoffs meant a lot. I'm surprised that companies don't really do that anymore.
I
Not a lot.
wonder, well, they do, not to the
Not to that
extent,
extent.
yeah, not to the extent, at least from I've been out of the hotel side of the business now for
I mean,
14
there's, like, the
years, I
circle
guess.
of excellence and
Yeah.
president's circle, which obviously have to happen, right? It's an incentive for people to make that, and it's an honor as well, but this was a company-wide thing.
No doubt. Yeah. It really built a camaraderie among among different departments too, that touch sales and touch our clients. That came out wrong. Maybe we need to
But you know what? I met you at a kickoff,
Yeah.
and I'll never forget, I thought you were Puerto Rican at the
No
moment.
kidding.
Yeah,
I think I was working for a Puerto Rican hotel, so that tracks. But yeah,
I thought,
yeah.
"Oh, here's this Puerto Rican guy," and my friend was like, he's from Rhode Island," and I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah?"
Good memory. Yeah. Good memory.
And
Rhode
and I
Island.
remember, well, at that point, he was introducing me, and here's another thing that I wanna share about how cool these, kickoffs were. For me, what it meant was inner network, right? Networking within the industry with our peers and having the opportunity of having a colleague introduce you to someone else that could potentially consider you for an opportunity that might not be within your hotel, within your state, and that was the beauty of it too. It was that one shot that maybe you got, right, to meet other peers that could consider you in the long run because they introduced, like I met you through a friend and so on and so forth. And so that was the beauty of it too. I felt like that helped me in my growth
Yeah,
when I
yeah.
started.
The it's not only about learning and getting messages from the stage and from the leadership, but it's all your peers you meeting. It's all the different networks you have. I'll tell you a funny story. I was director of sales at a hotel in the Bahamas, and it wasn't a kickoff. It was actually an incentive trip. And this woman comes up to me. She goes, "Are you Jeremy?" I'm like, "Does you work in the Bahamas?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "I want your job." I'm like, "Oh, hi. Nice to meet you. Like now? Like, should we talk about like transferring over papers now?" It's like, no. When you leave, I'm telling you I want your job. And sure enough, it was probably 2 years later when I was ready to leave. I called her up and said, "Hey, you know what? I'm about to leave. If you're interested in jumping down here, put in your resume and your application now." And she got the job. So those moments of interacting with your peers, those events are amazing. But you didn't stay with Starwood. Your career took you on. You've made some transitions through various brands. Tell me about the experience of why move brands. What motivated that? What reflections go on through your mind? Like, talk to me about the process of changing brands and changing destinations, even.
Well, I consider myself very bold and I'm a huge risk taker, and that's always been my thing. So, when Starwood sold and I was a multi property convention services manager at the moment. And I said to myself, it's now or never. This happened and you have to take it for what it's worth. It's over. And it was really like a divorce. I don't know how you felt, but we felt like our parents were getting divorced and in my position, I had two hotels and one was going to stay with Marriott at that point and the other one was going to become another brand. And so an independent brand at that. And so I had the opportunity to apply for both as a CSM, but
You had to choose between mom and dad.
yeah.
Yeah.
But then the independent hotel, gave me the opportunity when they interviewed me, they asked, "Dee, what would you like to do?" And to be honest with you, at that point, I didn't decide to kind of go the CS route. I said, "You're asking me what I want. Well, shoot, I actually wanna go to sales. This is
Okay.
it."
So you jumped from department. You didn't jump hotels. You jumped departments, even.
I made a bold move
Huh?
and I went and started speaking about how I wanted to be in sales.
Good for you.
And this gentleman, after the process ended and I did not get called for that position,
Okay.
because they had people already, he calls me, I'll never forget, I was in the car, it's raining, the day has come, now we need to know if we're staying with mom or dad
Yeah.
or no
Yeah.
home.
Right. Am I
And
going to be
yeah,
homeless
am
at
I
the
gonna
end
be
of this?
homeless?
Right.
In other words. So I get this call. Well, I don't know if I called him or he called me, but we ended up connecting and he goes to me, "Dee, I'm sorry, but the position that we thought we were gonna fill for the CSM, it actually fell through with our person. So would you be willing to take it?"
Okay. So back to out of sales again, but back
Yes.
to conference manager, which, by the way, conference service managers, for those who don't know, when a sale happens at a hotel and a group goes definite, it's out of sales hands at that point, and it goes to a person who is going to execute and do everything the contract says. The conference service manager is now responsible for executing the program and putting all the steps into
Executing,
action.
exactly.
Exactly. Yep.
And so what I did is I used to my leverage the fact that I knew that on December 1st or 2nd, whenever that day was, the system was gonna be wiped.
Okay.
So we're gonna start at a clean slate.
Yep.
I know all the contacts because I've been managing the groups. And so I had printed everything out. And I said to myself, well, I have the documents that I need to continue, even though there's nothing in the system it needs to be fed, right? All the information.
Yeah.
So I go, Steven, let's do something. You hire me as a CSM. You need me, but I also need you. I'll kick it off because we're going to season,
Yeah.
but you need to basically give me the opportunity to take a stab at this sales job because I knew that certain people that were going to be offered the sales position weren't going to take it at the end.
Yeah.
So I kind of just rolled the dice and I said, you need me, I need you. Start me off as a CSM. I'll get you kicked off. We'll transition my coordinator to my position, and then I will transition to the next person as a sales manager. I came in December 2nd, whenever the day was, and he goes, "Congratulations, you're our sales manager. Help us transition. And as of January, the job is yours.
That it didn't even take a month of transition for you to get
No.
go from CS to
Yeah,
sales.
and I also said to him on the phone, I go, if this doesn't work out, you have 90 days to fire me."
There you go.
So
Okay.
I just went for it all. I
Good
rolled
for
the
you.
dice.
Laid your cards on the table.
Yeah,
I've often heard too, you don't take your next job for that job as much as you take it for the job after that. If you're in the corporate structure and you're looking to career advance, I guess there's something to be said for taking a step back. I know in my career, when I was working my way through hotels, I at one point in my career, I said, this is not going to pay me as much as I want to get paid this next step. It's actually was a bit of a pay cut through various circumstances. It was actually whatever. I could talk details, but the point is I took less in a package because I knew from there where I was going to go. It was a launching point to the next position that I had my eye on. So that
that
idea of
happened to
like,
me too.
yeah, negotiating for taking a job that you're not crazy about to launch to the job you want is a sound strategy.
Yeah, and to my luck, 3 months later, I'm getting a phone call from my dream hotel that
No
happened to
kidding.
be part of Starwood.
No kidding.
It was their flagship hotel,
Huh.
and I was basically asked to, consider this position, apply, interview, and next thing you know, I was moving on to the job that I had coveted for so many
You
years.
want to name that hotel? Because I think I might know which one it was.
Yes, the Diplomat.
Yeah, I was director of
We
sales
were
there.
there.
Just
Not
a
not
few,
during my
not
time.
I would have hired you on the spot, but if it was my time, but it was probably maybe 7 or 8 years prior to your
Great
joining.
hotel.
I'm a lot older than you, D.
Oh,
Yeah.
whatever.
Um, but yeah, that was what a phenomenal hotel. Talk about a flagship. I remember
Yeah,
when with the Starwood collection, there was 950 hotels at the time within the Starwood collection, and there were three hotels that really anchored that company in terms of revenue coming in. It was the Sheraton, New York, for obvious reasons. It was the big box in the biggest city in the world. It was the Phoenician out in Arizona, which is at that point it was a luxury collection property. And then there was a Westin Diplomat.
the
Those are the
Westin
three
Diplomat,
hotels that were the really big anchors for that brand. So
AKA the Dip, and my
the
alter
Dip,
ego was Diplomat D.
Diplomat D, I like it.
So my
Oh,
mom was a
we got to get
diplomat,
that. Okay, like
and
an actual
yeah,
diplomat.
she was a I'm from Venezuela originally, right? So,
Yeah,
for those of you who don't know, that's where I was born, but I grew up in the States. I am bilingual, fully bilingual. I was fortunate to live in Venezuela for a few years as a
nice.
child, and I became fully bilingual, and I just put 2 and 2 together. How do I set myself apart? So at every hotel that I work at, I try to
And a nickname.
yeah, like
No
Duchess
kidding.
D right now.
Oh, I love it. Okay, Duchess
So,
D.
yeah, there's
Diplomat D. Well,
Diplomat
your
D,
mom must
yeah.
have been very proud that in a very different industry, you became a diplomat yourself.
Oh my goodness, there's stories about when I started handling the Latin American market. So I was a junior salesperson at the Diplomat, but still honored to be around so many veterans, people that, like, know their stuff in and out,
Yeah,
and I think that what people don't realize is that that is such a well-oiled machine. You know this, and I would venture to say that it still is, right? But the people that I worked with, and I'm sure you did too, were such experts in whatever market segment that they represented, right? And I watched people fight tooth and nail, present at DBR 1 week and then get shut down, but then come back 2 to 3 weeks later, present again, the
yeah,
same thing,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
all of a
yeah.
sudden, it was good to go. You got the green light.
And this is something I think people, especially that work in smaller markets, or might not understand. In a big hotel like the Westin Diplomat, and now it's the Hilton property, whatever brand you put on a hotel like that, that hotel is going to get 20 leads a day, maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration. At least 10 leads a day. Now, it's distributed among the sales team and depending on your territory, et cetera. That hotel could not possibly take, nor do they want, all the business that comes your way. There's a big deciding process that goes in behind which business land. And so it's a bit of a dance because they have to decide that they want to go after it and bid on it. And then, of course, once they bid on the program, then they're competing against other hotels for that program. But there's a stage that has to go through for the hotel to even bid on that, where they have to decide if this makes sense for us, whether it be availability at the hotel because you have another group there, or just by sheer profile of the group. There will be some groups that come in with 10 sleeping rooms and they want 100,000 square feet of space for 3 days. That makes it impossible to sell the other 990 sleeping rooms in that hotel. So anyway, I mean, for any industry vet, you get this probably like the back of your hand. At a place like the Diplomat, it's on hypermax because of the amount of leads and interest that that hotel generates. But for those who don't know outside the industry, just because you have a piece of business, not every hotel is clamoring for your piece of business. You know, there's a piece of business for every hotel and a hotel for every piece of business. But just because you have a piece of business doesn't mean that every hotel wants it. Now, yeah, I can go on, but as a now I'm on the client side. Sometimes it's a hard conversation to have with a client and say, look, you've got a great program for this profile hotel, but you're dreaming about this hotel that's never going to want your business because of your profile and what how you fit in that hotel is not a good fit. And as much as you want that hotel, we're going to have to alter our expectations. So
I love
anyway,
that you bring that up because I find it so important. For me, when I first started as a sales manager,
yeah.
I will never forget my friend, shout out to Rivka, who you know as well.
DJ Rivy Riv, much love to you, DJ Riv.
We worked together at we call it the Sheraton Fort Lauderdale, which is now the B Ocean. We were complex with the Westin Fort Lauderdale Beach.
Yeah,
And Rivka said to me, just remember one thing, the best piece of advice I can give you as you become a sales manager is it's not about the numbers, it's about the relationships.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I took that, I ran with it. And
What did that mean to you though when you heard that? How did it resonate with you?
well, one thing that I was told in the early stages of my career was that I had an innate talent for just being very genuine and like connecting with people in a very natural way.
I
And
can attest to that. You got a great personality for that.
it's really like I love connecting with people. I think that's why I'm in hospitality. I mean, we all went through 2020 and that could have been it, right? And here we
Yeah.
are. So hospitality is in my DNA. I love people, I love connecting, and I love genuine connections for that matter. And I think that for most people that have had the opportunity to work with me, they can say for a fact, Dee's genuine, it's real. That's what you're gonna get when you work with her, and I love that. It's what I want people to know me as. But going back to that, to me, it meant, yeah, just be you, be yourself, right? Like, you don't have to be something that you're not. And whether you're working for luxury or premium or whatever the hotel is, I mean, obviously you have to hold yourself in a certain way, right? I've worked luxury recently to premium prior to that, and I've had to modify the way
You
that
got
I
to
present
match the
myself and
brand.
everything. But
Sure.
it's never about being stuffy, not being real. Nobody wants to work with those types of people. I mean, let's be honest. You're a client, you don't want that. But you come
Correct.
from the hotel side and you know that. And so what I respect about your position and what I would always that I like in a perfect world, right? The people that are working on the third party side will have those real relationships to where they can have those candid and heart to heart, real tough conversations with their clients that I can't have, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't have any connection with them at that point. And if I tell you something, right, and okay, Dee's real, she's gonna give it to me just like it is. And if we can make it work in a different way, we'll figure it out. But it's just not gonna be exactly the way the client wants it. Maybe we could come to a resolution that is viable for all parties, right? But we have to have those tough conversations and we have to be real. So I can tell when someone has real relationships with their customers and when it's just like it's fake.
Yeah.
And it's obvious.
So we're talking on hospitality, the untold stories of hospitality. I will tell you when I was on the hotel side, one of the pet peeves that I had, and this happened, I'm going to say 3 or 4 times in my career when I was director of sales, I would get a call from an intermediary begging me to talk to their client to explain their importance in the process of why they should be representing them. It was a moment of shock. I think about it now, I'm shocked. I'm like stuck for words here. Like, if I have to justify your job and you can't justify your job with your client, you're probably not that necessary. Is what I mean, I didn't say it quite like that. I would probably be more direct now
Yeah.
in my older years and have a little bit more experience here. But I'm not gonna call I did tell them I'm not calling your client to tell them improve your value. You got to do that yourself.
Exactly.
If you can't do that yourself, you're probably not that valuable to them. Like, they should find somebody else. So the ability to talk both languages, hotelese and I guess, for really crappy kind of references there or inventing languages, but to be able to talk to a hotel in a language they understand and a client in the language they understand, I think it's the job of an intermediary in what we do. So,
That's what makes a good one in my opinion. And
yeah,
that's You know, when I go to conferences and every year you think about it, it's relationships are important. It's what matters. I go, why are we going back to the basics that are just so obvious? That is the fundamental, basis of these partnerships. Like they
Yes.
should be, they are important. You know,
But you ask why we go back to them. I think people lose that along the way. I think especially in this world of corporate mergers, when we have brands that are swallowed up every 30 seconds, it's easy for not only people to lose their job, and you actually lose relationships with people because they were let go or downsized or whatever. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I think, in an effort to streamline efforts, in an effort to make things more on brand for these massive brands now that have 15, 20, 30 brands underneath their umbrella, there's a certain cutting of contact with people. They want to automate things a little bit more and make it easier for their brands to kind of fit things in a cookie cutter. And relationships get sacrificed in that process, at least from my perspective. I don't know how
okay,
you feel about that.
fair enough.
So people do remind us, by the way, it's about relationships. It might sound basic, but from my perspective and where I sit, I can tell you hotels that I go back to on a regular basis and recommend to my clients because of the relationships. And I can tell hotels that I've tried to work on relationships with the people, and it's just impossible to find anyone who cares about the business like you do. And I can't. I mean, I book them because for whatever reason you
You
have to,
have to,
because of
yeah,
location and because of various
yeah.
factors, whatever. But I don't go around recommending them because I just know they don't care about relationships. And when the chips are down and when something goes
That's
wrong,
when they're trying to find you and get your help when it's
and
convenient.
that's it.
Yeah,
And vice
and it
versa.
can go
When when
exactly.
I need them and I can't find anybody, that's where I tell my client kind of like, this is an example of why I wouldn't have booked this hotel in the first place. Not to be like I told you so, but like, these relationships matter. So anyway, we've kind of beaten the relationship horse to death. But again, so no, again, we're here on hospitality is the name of the show. We're talking about the untold stories of hospitality. I know for a fact, and just over our conversations over beers and glasses of wine over the years, you got some pretty barn burner stories and things that you've done and the situations you've been put in. Share some of the more entertaining moments from your hospitality career that you'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe this just happened to me.
I mean, I guess if you wanna talk about fun stories that are not the cookie cutter stories, I did work at SLS South Beach at one point in my career,
Yeah, that's if any hotel is not cookie cutter on South Beach, it was the SLS.
and it was mainly because we had a little something called Hyde Beach in the
Talk
back.
to me about it. There we go.
Hyde
It's
Beach.
now we're getting to the untold stories of
So,
hospitality.
what I loved about this experience is that you had components that were very unique. You had awesome restaurants. You had Katsuya, the Bazaar by Jose Andres, and um, shout out to Chris Wheeler because he always makes fun of the way I say Jose Andres. But
Very
very
español.
español. But no, we had those two amazing restaurant groups in house, plus the hotel component, and then in addition to that, the nightlife component. So those were like the three things that made it unique, made it special. Also very hard to sell
Yeah,
because
there's a lot going
no
on.
one wants their group with, hot girls walking around the pool, like, half naked and
Yeah.
pool
Not no one.
parties,
I'm sure there's some group out there that wouldn't mind
right?
that, but not every corporate
Well,
group is gonna be.
the only meeting space I had was in front of the pool. So
Yeah.
there was no going around it, like, you had to walk through the pool.
Be a bit distracting when you're looking at PowerPoints for, the
Yeah,
upcoming year's numbers and you've got,
exactly.
thongs in the distance.
Exactly. So and then
Okay.
in the back part, not too far away from that, was Hyde Beach, which on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday was the pool party during the daytime, and then you would transition at nighttime to, the nightlife.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, a lot of the music, and the song choices were not very corporate-y.
Yeah.
So
That's a very delicate way to put
yeah.
that. Not very
Oh,
corporate-y.
and let's not forget the mirrors over the beds that I had to sell as a selfie mirror. I would
That's
spin it,
classic.
right?
I
You have
love
to
it.
spin. In sales, you have to spin things, and how did I spin the mirror over the bed? Like, thank you so much to the designer.
They're
Um,
for selfies.
yeah, and so I would say, in the morning, you wanna check yourself out, and you can take a selfie in the morning or at night. I'll never forget there was a group we had in-house, and we got really close to the client, we bonded and everything, and at one point, we're, like, all laying in the bed, I think during the site visit or something, we're like, "You know what? Let's take a selfie, this is the moment." So I kinda played with it. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. I get it, but I
Sure.
had to go with it, right? I couldn't like run away from the obvious, which was there is a mirror over the bed and it's not necessarily a selfie mirror.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's how I spun it.
Well done. That's actually pretty creative.
So going back to the meeting space and maybe the opportunities, if you want to call it that, of selling that space next to the pool, I'll never forget I had to pitch, you know what? This is my Conference Direct story.
Okay.
So I go to Conference Direct for the first time, annual partner meeting, and I'm working for SLS. At that time, our friends that, we know of had the commission part go down, right? That's
Yes.
when it all
Okay.
went down.
Got it. Okay.
I, at the time, was working for an independent company, so no one knows me, no one really cares, but I have to set myself apart. So how do I do that? Well, I just sat back and I listened to the, you know, Conference Direct colleagues and my peers, and people were getting killed left and right on the battlefield. I'm like, I feel so bad for them. It really,
So let's take a moment to pause
yeah,
here. What's happening in this moment for those listening who might not understand the dynamics here? The standard commission percentage for intermediaries has always been 10% as a standard. There are some hotels that would offer a bit more. It never impacts rate.
probably opened the
It's
Pandora box on this one.
it did, but this is actually why we're here to talk about the untold stories, right? A big brand that starts with an M, it's no secret, it was all in the news. They decided to cut their commission, the standard commission from 10% to 7. And that set the
For
our
national, domestic.
for domestic, yes.
International, it's still 10%.
Yeah, they try to soften it a little bit with stuff like that. But it was a tragic is probably the wrong words, traumatic perhaps shift away from what was industry standard, and for those earning their living with that on commission basis and sending hotels business, that cut meant a significant revenue cut for their income. So I think what you're referring to is on a trade show floor where there's some representation from those 7% hotels, they were taking an earful from the people who were
Which I
sending
have to
the
say, the
business.
hotelier, it was tough to see my colleagues
Yeah,
getting lynched.
I'm sure.
I
Of
wasn't
course, they
happy
didn't
for
do it.
them,
Yeah,
you
they
know?
didn't make the decision
Yeah.
either. But yeah, yeah,
Aside from that, so
they were collateral damage in a larger war, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm in the battlefield, and I'm like, "Okay,
yeah.
well, as a salesperson, like, you gotta
Man
survive,
down, man
right?" So
down.
how did I survive that one? I go, "Okay, D, simple. Business card, smiley face, 10%. Boom. Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Dee Torrealba. All you need to remember is I'm 10%. That's it.
That's
Goodbye."
it. We'll see your
The
business in South
last
Beach.
person I met with that day had what I did not know would then turn into an opportunity for my hotel at the time, and it was a huge piece of business for the hotel, but I knew that account had also booked at Diplomat many times. So I said, "Well, I think I know more or less the history with this account, and it's really important for me to win this piece of business over." So then I proceeded, to speak to my GM because, well, you're sending me off to this trade show, right? You want to see your ROI. Well, guess what? In order for me to win this piece of business, I had to close our pool down on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Q1.
Oh my God. Okay.
I mean, that's a pretty big deal for a little hotel.
Was it a buyout of the property or no?
Oh,
No, oh my
it was like
gosh.
50 rooms on peak
Okay.
for
That's a big ask.
140 rooms,
Yeah.
right? So it
Uh-huh.
is a big ask. So my boss at the time is like, "Hey, the door is, you go. You lead the way.
You go fight
You
this
go fight this
battle.
battle. I support you, but this is all yours to fight." And so I went with my SB card that said thank you, because those were our amenity cards. So this black card with gold says thank you, and I write on the other side, what I wanted to present. And so I tell my GM at the moment, Simone, which shout out to Simone, I love him. Simone
Hi, Simone.
Sorpresi, the best. And I go, Simone, I have to talk to you. I went to this conference and there's this piece of business. I want to win it. But here's the catch. I have to close the pool down for 3 days. But actually backtracking, I said, what does this card say? And he goes, thank you. And I said, you know why I'm pointing to it? Because by the end of this is what I'm going to be doing. I'm thanking you for saying yes. And he's like, "Oh, Dee, okay, let's talk." And so
It's a good sales pitch there.
I present, da da da. He's like, "Let me think about it." It was Memorial Day weekend. I'll never forget. I was flying back home to visit the family, and I'm at the airport, and I get the call, and it's my GM, and he's like, "Okay, I decided to give you, you know,
You
the
got it
green
across the
light."
goal line.
So
Yeah,
I'm like,
good.
"Okay, great." So again, this is like a year prior almost, right? Because when's the conference? More or less Q1, right?
Yeah,
So, and
it
then I'm
varies, but yeah.
presenting, this is Q2 now, and this is for Q1 the following year. And so it was a big deal to me because it was bringing something home, right? And it was worth over 100K in room revenue only.
Nice. Yeah.
Anyway, I ended up doing a video in the meeting space, setting it up, presenting it, like this is where your team will be meeting, da 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 da. We're gonna close down the pool. I did everything I had to do, and I ended up winning the piece of business. So that was my big
Well done.
sneaky moment.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well done. Yeah. To address the elephant in the room with the 7 and 10%, as a representative of my client, I'm going to bring that client to wherever they're best suited, whether that be a 7% hotel, a 10% hotel, a 15% hotel. I'm not chasing money in that sense. But if we have hotels that, first of all, I think it shows a little bit of the value of how hotels value your relationship when they're willing to cut back in ways that I think are unnecessary and show you that they really don't value your business that much versus a hotel that's willing to say, look, we still want to partner with you at 10%. And it's an equal shot between a 7% and a 10% hotel. My clients will tell me, let's go to the 10% hotel. We want to make sure you get protected and your revenue stays the same as opposed to 7%. So anyway, whatever. It is a Pandora's box for
I
sure. We could
know.
have 50 podcasts
Please
just on
don't
this
cancel.
topic. No, no, no. It is what it is. These are real topics that happen within the hospitality world, and
Yeah.
I think this is what we're here talking about. This is the stuff behind the scenes that as we have drinks at a bar, and the industry people are there talking. This is the stuff we talk about for sure.
The only thing I will say, because I know that it's your livelihood and everything, and I respect that, not only as a friend, but as a professional, peer, it's not our fault. Like we
Of
work
course,
for these companies, and it's
yeah,
not you're coming down on us, and it's really hard too because we're just doing our best. And if you are a good partner, I mean, you know that and you can appreciate it, but not everyone does, right? And so I've seen things and I've heard comments, and I've been in the position because I have worked with different companies. So I've been in the company that can give you up to 12% if need be, or the one at 7. And yeah, it's great when it's great, but then it's also, not that great when you're
well,
at the
here's
7%.
a lesson for people in our position. And this goes, I just had this conversation with another guest on this show. It doesn't cost anything to be kind. And when we're talking about the dynamic of what happens when you get to the front desk and the room is not ready or they're not giving you everything you expected. And this person goes apoplectic and crazy on this front desk agent who has nothing to do with the fact that your rooms aren't ready. Like you're taking it all out on the wrong person. Same exact concept. You can insist on a better way. You can insist on what is equitable. You can insist on what's fair, and you can do it with a smile on your face and be kind about it. That's something I think that is. And so when you have a hotel salesperson who's delivering the news of their corporate overlords, telling you what their percentage is, it's not their fault. Just like you said, there's no reason to go ham on them. There's no need for it. And if you want to object, you can with a smile on your face and say, "Hey, this is how we feel about this," but it doesn't have to be a mean, ugly conversation
Yeah.
where you're not being kind.
So
So
let's be
anyway,
kind to one another.
that was our Mr. Rogers moment of the
Yes,
day.
it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
But it really is true. There's no need for that kind of
Yeah.
nonsense. As we're getting kind of the touchy feely stuff about how we interact with people, tell me as we start to wind down this podcast, what does hospitality mean to you? Like, what are ways that you feel that this industry has made you better, or perhaps drawn out of you something you didn't even know you had in you? Where are some of those moments that hospitality served you in that sense?
I mean, big question. I love it though. I mean, for me, hospitality means the family that I chose,
Mm, I like that.
both from the friends that I've made that have now become my family, people that I've spent holidays, birthdays, milestones, good, bad, the ugly, they're there. They're
Yeah.
my chosen family, and then clients too, clients that have become friends, and I mean, I can say you're one of them, right? And it's genuine, and we've had heart to heart conversations about our personal growth, our career growth, being able to come back to each other to ask for advice sometimes when in need, or share the, great successes
Yeah.
and cheer each other on our wins and growth within the industry or wherever that takes us, right? Whatever rama, I can't, help me
Yeah.
here.
Branch.
Branch, yes. Thinking my Spanglish had to come in at some point in this podcast. People, I live in Miami. It's the thing. I'm
Spanish is
trilingual,
there.
Spanglish,
There
English,
you
and
go.
Spanish.
There you go.
But for me, it's that, honestly, and I can say that, I had a beautiful experience, multiple experiences last year. I was recognized as Hotel Partner of the Year for another third party, and
Amazing.
it
Good for
was
you.
a very special moment for me because I've always had that on my list. I mean, that means a lot to me, and it's not the recognition, but it's what it means about, what how people perceive me as a seller and as a person.
Yeah, of course.
And
That's beautiful.
thank you.
Congratulations.
And that was really special because that's what I want people to remember me as, just someone that's real, someone who's genuine. And when you ask the question of how this industry has, changed me or challenged me, I remember when I took on, for example, the Northeast as a market. I had never worked that market specifically. And I have to say that when I was told this is now going to be your market, I was intimidated.
Well, it's intimidating, and let's explain a little bit to the listener. The Northeast market is the one that produces the most revenue. You're obviously sitting on New York, Boston, Connecticut. There's a lot of massive
Tough.
corporations that are centered
Yeah.
there. So and then like you said, this is a tough market. They're not Midwest friendly up in the
Nope.
Northeast. So yeah, you're going to hear it if you're not living
Yeah.
up to standards. So
No.
it's usually most hotels it's the biggest market driver for their business. So you were given the Northeast market,
Yeah.
the biggest responsibility to drive business to the hotel.
Along other third parties, international and financial and insurance, and it was a huge undertaking,
That's a lot. Yeah.
and for the Caribbean for that matter. So that market is hot, and it's for luxury resorts, and so it was a huge challenge. But the person who hired me, shout out to Mr. Alfredo Ortega, he trusted that I could do that. And he saw that potential. He had met me years ago, and he knew there was something in me, that I had what it took to take that on. And so, well, I was presented with it and I took it on. I felt like I was mature enough, confident enough, experienced enough to take on the role, and it's helped me grow even more. And then I realized like I could do it, and I'm proud to see how I've grown in the role, and yeah, and just know that I've created. When I went to a recent conference last year, one of the things that I was told was, I haven't done business with you, but I can tell that I would totally do business with you because you're just real and you're straightforward and there's no BS. And I was like, yes, that is exactly what you're going to get with me.
Dee, I want to touch on one more topic with you, and it's something we've had in one of our personal conversations over the last year. You said something to me that really stood out, and it might be a bit of a sacred cow we're going to tip over here, but there's this job, this industry can demand a lot from you, right? You mentioned to me you want to be a great salesperson, you want to be real, but you're not about giving your life to a hotel. You're not about giving up your personality. There are some salespeople who dive so far into their job that they just lose themselves. You said you are interested in being the best at your job, but you're not willing to sacrifice who you are in order to be the top of your game, especially in this world where it feels like inflation continues to go crazy and people are killing themselves just to make a little bit more money. Tell me a little bit more about your authenticity behind your approach to the job, not sacrificing who you are and your style of life to be successful at what you do.
So to me, it was a series of life events, from Starwood getting sold and having to decide, are we staying here? Where are we going? This is huge. To then the pandemic, which affected all of us. And then I had a great leader that I lost. And all of those,
He passed away.
she
Yeah.
passed away.
I'm sorry to hear. I remember that when that happened, that was
It was tough. Yeah, it
impactful.
was very impactful. And it made me, at that point, I think that was the last straw that broke the camel's back in terms of reminding me and keeping very present that there's only one life that we get to live. And being in hospitality is beautiful for all the reasons that I just mentioned. But I also prioritize myself because if as a parent, and I'm not one, but people say, "Oh, I'm a parent. You have to take care of yourself before you take care of your child and your family, or be a good friend, or be a good partner," whatever that is. I stand by that. If I'm not taking care of myself mentally, emotionally, physically, and then what am I doing? I'm not gonna be a good salesperson. I'm not going to be in the right mindset. I'm not gonna have the passion and that fire, ignited in me, because it's just gonna be kind of robotic, and you're just doing it to do it, or forced to be the best because that's what it takes. Who says? Who says that that's what it takes to be the best? Who wrote that?
Yeah. How do you define best?
How do you Yeah, and so I think that one of the things that I have, thought about throughout the past few years, now that I'm no longer the young generation, because at one point when I was, I always said, "Well, I wanna be like this and I wanna be like that," but I'm sure most of you have been at a conference where you hear a panel of, "Here's a Gen Zer and here's a boomer." And I've always said it, where's the millennial in this process, in this conversation? Because how do you,
Skip a whole
yeah,
gap
how do you
of
fill
people.
this gap? Well, hello, first you need the millennial in the middle. And I feel like we need to evolve as an industry, and I'm really curious to see how that comes together in the next 10, 20 years, because I'm not saying we should be this way or that way. I feel like we are that middle point, um, to find that balance, because yes, we can serve and we can be, hospitality is 24/7, but there should be limits and they need to be respected. And I feel like a lot of people lose themselves. And so then you feel the pressure of, if I'm not XYZ, then I'm not going to be considered the best. And that's not the truth. Who defines that?
Yeah, it's not healthy. I think you create an environment as a leader. If that's your expectation, you're creating an environment among your team that's rife with resentment. You have a lot of half-ass salespeople or half-ass team members, whether that be sales department or another department, because they feel like you're encroaching on who they are to benefit a corporation. Which I don't know. I don't. We can probably talk another hour on just this topic, but I
Yeah.
appreciate that approach of what you're saying of taking care of yourself first. The theme throughout the first few episodes of this podcast and the people that I'm talking to have all come back to this idea of wellness.
I think that's key, honestly. I think everyone, no matter what generation you are, wellness and making sure that your team is doing okay, that doing those check-ins, that is important. That is what you should be doing with your teams, and respecting it, not fake. Did you see the post about the guy that called out his boss? He's from the Netherlands. Oh my god, it went viral. This guy from the Netherlands clocks out at 5 p.m. on the dot, Monday through Friday, and the US based manager, has a one-on-one with him and basically is like, "Hey, I'm not I don't think that, this is really working out." The gentleman goes, "I'm sorry, but in the Netherlands, we have a contract for 40 hours, and it is actually frowned upon to work past those 8 hours a day, because that means that you are not doing your job properly. You're not being productive."
Amazing. Flip the
So
script.
he goes, "So as far as I'm concerned, I'm doing my job. I don't know what your situation is in the US, but here, this is how it works. And I will no longer be taking any messages from you after 5 p.m. Any message you send on Friday will be answered on Monday morning. So that's it." And so he had his HR team contact this person. The HR person was laughing and was like, "Absolutely not. I will address this." And then from that point on, it was respected. And I hear that's the same case with Canada as well. You can't do that. And I don't even want to get started. That's a topic that I would love to like dive into, because
Make a whole nother episode
that's a
here,
whole
D.
other
But
episode.
I'll tell you something too. If you're looking for a great book to read on this topic and differences culturally, it doesn't speak directly to this, but it does in a roundabout way. It's called The Culture Map, and it talks about how work environments, cultural environments, family environments, how they vary throughout the world, and how some are more direct, some are less direct. Again, it doesn't quite hit this topic as you're talking about it, but there's so much we can learn from our work life in watching other people. If you've ever been to the Netherlands, they got it right in a lot of ways. They know just exactly what you're talking about. They're family time and their friend time, it's sacred. Their personal time is sacred. And that's the way it should be. Like, you pay me to work 40 hours. I'm not going to work 50 hours and call it a day. I'm here to work 40 hours. And if you want me to work 50 hours, we'll go to another agreement and you're going to pay me for 50 hours and we'll put it on paper. If I agree to that and you agree to that, but I'm not going to work over my 40 hours. I think we don't do that enough in this culture, in the U.S.
But
culture,
we're
for
also in
sure.
hospitality, so it's
True.
kind
It's a
of
24, it's a
it's hard to
24/7 business, but there's
Yeah.
ways that we can honor and respect as leaders, as colleagues. We can respect each other's time a little bit more and space a little bit more. I think there's also a part of me just getting older. It's like, it doesn't matter to me. I want to be just like you do. I want to be the best that I can be, but I'm not going to sacrifice myself, my family, my friends, my dignity to a certain extent, just to work an extra 5 hours for this person who insists that I have to work more. That's not going to be the way it works. So it's establishing those boundaries, I think, is in your personal life and your work life that are important. On that note, we're going to set boundaries and call this podcast to an end. It's been such a pleasure talking to you, Dee. Thank you so much for
Likewise.
believing in this podcast. We are the #1 podcast in the world. Ha ha ha. One day maybe we just will be the #1 podcast in the world, but for now we're the #1 podcast in the world. But I appreciate your time with us, Dee. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your stories. Let it not be the last. We'll invite you on for future episodes. And
Vote for me if you want me to come back.
there you go.
Leave a comment. Dale like.
Oh, I love it. I
Subscribe.
love it. You're doing my job for me. It's
Yeah.
perfect.
I'll get sidekick.
Guys, thanks for joining. And until the next time, safe travels.